we do this for natal charts? Is the sky story that's happening at the time of someone's born, is it relevant to their life? And I think it is. I think all of you have a sky story. And you have your chart, which is really important, but you also have a sky story that you're a part of. You're just a part of, but it's there. So, given what we've been talking about, start to play with this sky story. This is a natal sky story. What I want you to notice is here's the sun rising. Mars is rising before the sun, always makes it powerful, but it's in the constellation of Virgo. So Nergal is being tamed. He's on a lead. The king is very high. The king is well above Nergal. The king is present. So immediately you think, well, yeah, there's a strong Mars, but there's a taming of this Mars. Do you agree? Here's underneath the horizon. That's the same slide I just showed you. Underneath the horizon, here, we've got Jupiter and Venus together, and they are in Scorpio. Here's the Crown Prince in the mouth of the Scorpion. So this is a bit assertive. And Venus is next to Antares at the heart of the Scorpion. So this is an assertive chart. Mars rising, these amongst the Scorpion. But the king is high. There is a sense that there is a taming here. There's a domestication here. There's a system. And this is the chart of Augustus Caesar. So, yeah, he was pretty assertive, but he was the system, right? And here we see all that assertion, but it's not a rebel in that sense. There's that strong Saturn. The king is there. And I'm not saying that you could look at this sky story and delineate that this will be Caesar. The same as we can't look at a horoscope and say that's, going to be Caesar. But we can see the story supporting the two things. And I think we just get some more information when we allow the sky to talk to us and help us with the horoscope. Let's keep playing. We can not only look at sky myths in a story, the stage, we can also look at how the stars relate to the planets. But we don't want to do it by putting the stars on the ecliptic. We actually want them to maintain their position within their constellations. We want to maintain the integrity of the stage that we're working with. And so what the Egyptians, the way they used to think about it, and probably the Mesopotamians, is they did it in Paran. And Parans are very simple. Is that you have a system where you have a horizon line and you have a zenith, and where the zenith cuts the ecliptic here, you have an MC. So you have an IC down here. And a very simple approach. If a planet is on any of the angles, and if a star is also on one of the Earth angles, then they are married in Paran. And this star would be in Paran to the Jupiter. And that is, these angles are the way that the Earth touches the sky. That's the important thing to understand. The only way the sky can talk to the Earth is through the line of the horizon and the MC-IC axis. The MC is the point where things turn and start to set, and the IC is where they turn and start to rise. So these are the 4 points of how the sky talks to the Earth. So if a star is on one of these points at the same time as a planet, then they are married together. That's what a Paran is. It's nothing complicated, nothing hard. We can I've put Jupiter on the MC there, but we can actually say, right, it might be a star rising with a planet setting. That would be a Paran. Or it might be instead the star on the MC and the planet setting or rising or down here. So it doesn't matter where the planet is or where the star is, but if they're occupying those points at the same time, they're in Paran. That is a marriage. And Parans are very, very latitude specific. We can have that relationship at one location, but you change the latitude by a few degrees and you don't have that relationship. So 2 people born at exactly the same time, GMT time, but slightly different places, will have very similar horoscopes, but totally different star relationships to their chart. So back to Caesar. Here's his chart. We've seen his sky story, but when we look at this, we also see his Mercury here. Actually, when it was rising, when it was sitting on that horizon line, then the constellation and the bright star Altair, which is here, was actually at its lowest point in the sky on the IC. Altair is the eagle, the symbol of Rome, the symbol of military power. He has a military mind. The standard delineation, which was not written for Caesar's chart, it is just the research work. I've written all the meanings of planets and stars together. I've got my lost years. It took 5 years to put them all together. I just went away for 5 years and did that. Right. But the meaning of that is the military mind, a brave and independent thinker. So simply we start to see, this story, the whole story of Altair and the eagle, if it's allowed to connect up with the planets via this ancient system of Parans, we start to see it becomes quite relevant. Let's take another story. I'm just going to show you a few examples of sky maps and Parans, just so you can get a feel for it. Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci. He has, this is sunrise for Leonardo da Vinci on the day. Here's the sun just below the horizon. His Mercury is visible. His Mercury is just far enough in front of the sun that when the sun rises, the Mercury is visible. Mars is very tamed, you see? Domesticated, civilized. Jupiter, the moon is over Jupiter, rising over the top of Jupiter, so the crown prince is happy, is giving power to whatever's coming up here, and we have Mercury, the quick thinker, rising amongst the stars of the fishes, rising. So we can think, what we could play around with his sky story, but we can also ask the question of what other stars are linked to Leonardo's Mercury. And this is what we get. Mercury was rising with Denebola, that's the star in the tail of Leo, was actually setting. And the simple meaning of that, which are written without reference to Leonardo, is to have a different point of view on language and culture. Mercury was culminating when Denebola, a star in the wing of Virgo, is on the nadir, a person who measures, a collector of data. Mercury was setting with Denebola. This is the tail of the swan, right? It is setting the idea magician, the poet, the actor, or the shaman. And Mercury was on the IC when Mirach, the star of Andromeda, is on the IC. The translator, a person who builds rapport between ideas or languages. Leonardo. And that's just his Mercury. Michelangelo. These are people I like, It's nice having, a fascinating sky map. This is his chart, and it actually is the time given, and he's born at, according to the data I've got, sunset. And I want you to notice now, look at this with Mesopotamian eyes, and look how far away the Venus is from the sun. So, how bright is that Venus? Bright. So as he's born, this Venus is very, very bright in the sky. The king is high. Is this a rebel? No. Can you see? Well, I know I'm shaking your astrology up a bit. I'm loosened all the bolts and I'm just rearranging a few things in your head.
The king in this case, the Pope?
It could be. The king is the authority. So in this case, it is the Pope. It's the system. So that Venus is very bright, and now it's illuminating Pisces. It's illuminating Cetus the whale as well, but illuminating Pisces. And the king is in a good position, so we're not getting anything running amok. And what we have, of course, is Michelangelo. But then we can say, well, are any other sky stories tied to that Venus via this simple concept of Parans? Does that Venus hit an angle and marry itself to the Earth at the same time with any key star? And this is Michelangelo's Venus. Vega, the great charismatic, brilliant star of the lyre. The artist's visionary ideas on social order. his Venus, like Leonardo's Mercury, is also with Denebola, that domesticating, shamanistic. That to me is the shaman star. It's the tail of the swan. The poetic soul struggling to live in the mundane world. And I just think this is so reflective of that. Seleucian, which is the major star of the dolphin, when Venus was on the nadir, Seleucian was rising. An artistic eye with colour, design or performance. I think we can tick yes. All right. I'm not saying this overrides the horoscope. I'm just saying there's something else here, which as astrologers we should at least acknowledge. Some of us might be passionate about it and really get into it, but even if you're not passionate about it, to understand there's a sky, and the sky is still talking. This is all of Michelangelo's star, or not, up to the Carmenade. This is a standard printout from Starlight, and I've made in red the different ones that come out. And it's just dropped off the screen there. But if you just quickly look at these, I won't go into a lot of detail, but you actually start to see quite an image of Michelangelo building up. I mean, this star with Jupiter, the swan star with Jupiter, the adept physically or desiring to solve problems of physical world. And the Sistine Chapel sort of just about sums that up. So you can play around with those. If you don't have these for yourself, your own chart, you can come up to us and we're happy to print them out free of charge for you. So, because we just want the information out there. A southern hemisphere map. All right. Immediately, you should notice something different. This is the ascendant, and if you're a sharp eye and been paying attention, the ecliptic sloping in the other direction. All right. Southern hemisphere, and all the constellations are upside down. Here's the chart. It's a natal chart. Have a look at it now with a Mesopotamian eye. King's gone, crown prince disappeared. Nergal high. Venus very bright as well. Venus radiating Nergal. Nergal right in the heart of the Scorpion. You think, whoa, what's going on here? What's happening? Remember, this was a World War I configuration. So, sorry, that was Nergal with Leo. Sorry, I'll take that back. This was actually a wolf star amongst the stars of Scorpio. So this is immediately an aggressive statement. And immediately we've got the radiation of Venus going on. So you think, this is an interesting chart because the Venus is in quite good condition, but, this is very strong. Germaine Greer. Do you know who Germaine Greer is? Right, good. Right. Let's look at her. Let's look at her Mars. That Mars is so important. Her Mars was rising with Menka. Menka is the star in the mouth of Cetus the whale, the collective unconscious. Actions which please or jolt the collective to be driven by hidden forces. She wasn't just doing her thing about her rights as a woman. She was enraged for the whole, for every woman. And this is an expression of the collective. Her Mars was culminating with Alphard. Alphard, his other name is the heart of the serpent. Another interesting star, shall we say. An aggressive, assertive person. But it's softened here. Because it's setting with Fomalhaut, one of the great royal stars of Persia. The idealistic warrior, mystical hero, or blind fanatic. You always have that other point. But this softens it. It gives it a vision. But more importantly, and you just can't see it there, it's setting with Alkees. And Alkees is the crater, the cup. And that is to be the voice of the collective, to carry a message, to have a divine mission to carry. And this is Germaine's Mars, which is here so powerfully in her chart and radiated by the Venus. She could have been a blind fanatic, and some people would have called her, and probably still do call her, a blind fanatic. But we have to admit that she did actually shift us something out of the collective and put it on the centre stage. And she's still doing that because she's tackling the incredible racist problems that we have in Australia and still being ridiculed by many people. So, what I'm suggesting is we actually don't need to do this. You can do it if you want to. But we don't have to overpopulate the ecliptic. We don't have to stay attached to it like the mother that we can't leave. The ecliptic is the pathway of the sun, isn't it? The sun is a star. It is philosophically and morally and ethically correct with the sky to project the planets back onto the ecliptic, because the planets technically are the children of the sun. I know, Pluto, I know. All right, I know that bit, right? But they are. You know, the planets belong to the solar system. The solar system is the way that things orbit around the sun. The sun is the strange attractor or the attractor of our system. And therefore, for the planets, it is ethically correct, morally correct, that they could be placed on the pathway of the sun. They belong to the sun. They are the sun's children, or they are adopted by the sun. They belong to the sun's tribe. They speak the sun's language. They are of the sun's culture. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the stars do not belong to the sun. The stars do not belong to the sun's culture. The stars do not speak the sun's language. They belong to a different tribe. They are different nations. They are different languages, just like we've got here at this conference. We don't ignore different languages. We try and listen to those languages. We try and communicate with those languages. Roy is going beside himself with counting headphone sets, isn't he? I mean, he's on another planet, right? But he's there, he's doing it for it. He's trying to bridge that gap for all of us. If we refuse to talk to anybody unless they spoke English, we would be committing a crime of racism. If you're from another language, refuse to try and communicate with someone outside of your language, it's a form of racism. If we insist that we will only listen to the stars if they walk the pathway of the sun, if they speak the sun's language, right, that is stellar racism. I know, I'm a little bit excessive. I know. I've lost the plot. I know. Right? Humour me. But this is bad enough, but when you also put all the stars on the ecliptic, you're forcing them to speak a language they can't even speak. And they lose their culture, they lose their stories, they lose their meaning. And we end up with, you will die with a rusty blade between your shoulder blades in the foreign country in a gutter if you have Mars conjunct the star. Do you know? So, if we are brave enough to step off the ecliptic, we do two things. We maintain the honour of the ecliptic if we use it just for the planets. Because then we allow the ecliptic and all its magic and the magic of its degrees to exist. By putting stars onto them, we haven't bothered to research what the actual individual Maya degrees of the ecliptic actually mean. If we get the stars off it, we may be able to start looking at what do the degrees of the ecliptic mean. Because I think they have meaning. I mean, I think it's relevant that the ecliptical positions that were being emphasised at the time of 9/11, they have been tattooed into our psyche for a while. And every time a planet or an eclipse or something hits those degrees, something's going to happen. Because the piano's been tuned that way and someone's just pinged one of our strings. The ecliptic is our instrument. So yes, that's valid. But if we cluster it with stars, we can't even do that research work. Get the stars off it, then two things happen. We can listen to the stars' language and their stories, and they're such rich and beautiful stories. And they're our stories from the last 300,000, our stories. And then we can also look at the stories that we have put on the actual degrees of the ecliptic itself. We don't have to do this. So, let's go back to this sky. We can have a chart, but we can also have the sky. And then we can maintain the integrity of all of these great stories and have the ecliptic as well. We can actually have our cake and eat it too. So what does visual astrology add to our horoscopic craft? It allows us to ask questions like, how bright is a planet? How bright is a planet? How high is a planet? What star is near it? What planets can be seen in the sky at this moment? And what star and planet unions via Parans are there in the sky? We can add all of these questions to our horoscopic craft. Not to override the horoscope, but the way I see it is to sit underneath the horoscope, because these myths are older than our horoscopic myths. These myths are older than our planet myths. I think our planet myths are, I don't want to put a hierarchical statement on, but it's sort of like they're closer to our consciousness. And the star myths are deeper. They're deeper in our unconscious, in the collective unconscious. And they come up and feed through the chart and push through in that direction. But astrology can embrace, if we want to go pluralistic, we can embrace the whole sky. And that's really just what I wanted to share with you. Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, this is Bernadette Brady. That was a lecture I did in 2005. Since that time, I've developed visual astrology even further myself and Darylyn Gunsberg through our newsletter. If you love this sort of astrology, then think about joining us in May in South Africa. It's going to be something really quite special. And I don't think it'll be repeated. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The whole idea of the conference is to connect you up with the sky, to take the astrology that you've just been listening to in the lecture and go beyond it, go another step. So you come away from that not only knowing the night sky and being able to look at it through a lot of new technology I've invested in, sky laser pointers that can point to a star in the sky, etc., so that you can actually learn the sky, but also learn how to see it through Mesopotamian eyes. We're going to be a small group. It's going to be intense, but it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. See you there.